Hey everybody, welcome back to the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. My name is Scott. If you're new to this channel and you're looking for reviews of different whiskeys such as bourbons, ryes, American style whiskeys, go ahead and consider hitting that subscribe button. Also make sure to hit the bell notification. That's just going to alert you to when I'm doing new uploads or live streams. If you're already a subscriber to the channel, thank you so much for all of your support. I greatly appreciate it. So today's video is going to be my top 5 bourbons for beginners. I mean, everybody has to kind of start somewhere, and this is just a general 5 that I think would be very approachable. Just a solid 5 bourbons that I kind of put together again that I think would be a good introduction to people getting into whiskey, bourbon, things along those lines. So as always, once the video is over, feel free to leave a description below as to maybe what your top 5 would be, or something that you would either add in, take out, whatever it may be. So first, let's start with a few honorable mentions. And what I think I'm going to do with these is I've really only listed these as the honorable mentions, either A, because of they didn't make kind of the top 5, or because of the allocation, or sometimes the inability for everybody to get these. So I didn't think it was fair to necessarily put something in that was going to be, one of the bourbons that would be kind of very difficult to get. So first, let's start with the Woodford Reserve. That's everywhere. So again, it's a 90 proof, generally speaking, solid bourbon. Lots of just really, really good flavors, very bourbon-esque. So, I mean, as you kind of begin to kind of work your way, into drinking bourbons, you'll see that that has a very typical bourbon kind of profile, very approachable. And then we've got the Buffalo Trace and the Eagle Rare. Again, both 90 proof bourbons, really, really approachable, sweet, a little bit of spice, a little bit of oak that's there, some citrus in both of them. So both, again, very, very approachable. So those 3 I wanted to kind of just include as, an honorable mention. So again, if you're out looking for bourbons and those are, one of the 3 that you can find, by all means, go ahead and pick up, one or all 3 of them. And I think those will really kind of, do you well with that. So with that being said, let's move into the 5. It's kind of a top 5, but not necessarily in order. What I did was I went by proof. So I'm going to start with the lower proof and work my way up to the highest proof that I still think is approachable for somebody kind of getting into bourbon. So my number 5, or the 5th one, is going to be the Four Roses Small Batch. Again, for me, Four Roses is always soft. There's some floral notes. There's some nice sweet caramels and vanillas. So I think for anybody getting into bourbon, this is always a good place to start. I think it offers a lot of the different complexity that will be, again, very approachable to people getting into, bourbon itself. I'll have as much of the information linked to each one of these bourbons in terms of price, mash bill, MSRP, all of that. So again, I'll have all of that information linked right in the video. So when you're watching this, you'll see all of that information there. So, starting out with the 5th one, again, the Four Roses Small Batch. Okay, so let's move on to the number 4. This is one for me that is kind of a little bit newer or reintroduced to me. And I just kind of, I almost forgot how good it really was. Not only for anybody who is, beginning in the bourbon world or the whiskey world, but anybody looking for just a solid, everyday sipping type of bourbon. And for me, that's going to be the Michter's Small Batch US 1 bourbon. This for me is something that you just can't go wrong with. Again, very much like the Small Batch Four Roses, it offers that sweet, little bit of oak, a little bit of spice. Again, very bourbon, traditional for the most part. So it's, again, very, very approachable. And this one really comes in at a really, pretty friendly proof, 91.4 proof. something again that's just a very overall solid bourbon, and one I think that can be, really introduced to just about anybody. Still that sweetness, a little bit of spice, some oak, some of the vanillas and the caramels, again, very typical of, a bourbon profile. So there we have the Four Roses, or excuse me, the Michter's small batch, basically Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So coming in at number 3, or the third one, I felt this definitely had to be in there. So here we have the Elijah Craig small batch. This is a staple really everywhere. This comes in at 94 proof and is really everywhere. So again, very, similar to the other ones, a lot of the standard type of bourbon profiles, some of that sweetness, the caramels, the vanillas, a nice layered entry level type of bourbon. So, all of these, as I mentioned, a lot of the same type of profiles, they're all gonna have their subtle differences. So that's the nice part with bourbon, is that you can kind of classify it as the same but different. And by that is that each distillery will have their own kind of profile. So as you begin to kind of drink some of these different bourbons from the different distilleries, you'll start to really pick out, the profiles that you really appreciate, whether something is sweeter, spicier, drinks a little bit hotter in terms of the proof. So, go through some of these and really kind of check some of them out. I think you'll be very pleased with the 5 that I kind of have here. So again, the Elijah Craig small batch, it's everywhere. MSRP on this, I believe, is right around that $22 price point, maybe as high as $25 max. But again, a really budget-friendly, solid drinking bourbon. All right, so let's move on to number 2. Now we're gonna start to kind of pick up the proof a little bit on some of these. And this is the Old Forester 100. So this is the 100 proof Old Forester. And I just released a video not too long ago, so I'll link that above here for you to check out the individual review on that. But I was really surprised as to the overall complexity that this bourbon had to offer. And I thought it was, while I was doing the review, I just felt it was very approachable. Had a lot of those, again, typical type of bourbon notes, but from the standpoint of, again, it being very approachable, the sweetness, the oak, the spice, just a little bit, more kind of complex than maybe some of the others, but I'll kind of leave that up to you to decide. But I wanted to get this one in there from a proof standpoint, that maybe this was still going to be approachable to people beginning in the bourbon world who maybe want a little extra proof. So we've kind of gone up a little bit, slowly in proof here, and it'll kind of give you a good idea of, what proof will do to a bourbon, all the way from 90, on up, and you'll kind of start to really figure out or see what it is that you enjoy in a bourbon. So coming in at number 2 is the Old Forester 100 proof Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. So number 1, or just the highest proof bourbon on the list, is going to be the Wild Turkey 101. This is a standard everyday type of bourbon. It's everywhere. It's a great price. Usually for a $7.50, this is going to be anywhere from that maybe $20 to maybe $25 tops for a 750 milliliter. It offers just a really, really nice bang for your buck. Again, 101 proof. I don't think it necessarily drinks as though it's 101 proof. So that's what made me think that this was going to be just a very approachable bourbon. So, if you're looking for all of these, as you'll see, I've kind of worked my way, up in proof. And again, going back to the Wild Turkey 101, it offers a lot of those traditional type of bourbon profiles, the sweetness, the spice, a little bit of that oak that's there. And again, like I mentioned before, each one's going to have its own subtle differences. And that's the best part about kind of exploring, bourbon or whiskey in general, is trying to figure out ultimately what it is that you prefer in a bourbon, whiskey, whatever it may be. And again, all of these, if you want to try it first in a cocktail, you should still be able to pull out some subtle differences in terms of the flavor profiles of all of these. But that's the top 5 that I have. So hopefully this will help you in your journey to trying to figure out what it is that you like in a bourbon, where to start. It'll give you a nice, different profile for each one. Each one of these coming from a different distillery. So like I mentioned before, they're all going to have a bit of a different profile. So give these a try. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether or not you've tried some of these, all of these, what you like, what you don't like about them. And yeah, so there we go. There's my top 5 with a few honorable mentions regarding the budget bourbons, or kind of top 5 bourbons for people beginning their whiskey journey, so to speak. So with that being said, so again, like, subscribe, leave some comments. Again, like I said before, let me know your thoughts. Is there anything that you would remove, anything you'd add in there? Whatever it may be, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on, these bourbons specifically. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into another one of my videos. Greatly appreciate it. So hopefully, again, this helps you a little bit. If you'd like to help support or contribute to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. You can find my link to the Patreon page down below. So all support is very much appreciated. Also, if you'd like to follow me on social media, you can through Instagram, Twitter. I have a Facebook page, My Bourbon Journey, there as well. So again, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into another video. And like I say, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.